All right. So I am going to
Huh.
officially start this video. So
Yeah.
hi, everybody. This is
Hi.
Saturday, October 5th, and here on the west coast of Turtle Island, it is 10:35 in the morning on Saturday, October 5th. This is the second of 2 hour-long sessions that happen on the first and third Saturdays of each of the months of this slightly more than a year-long program that we've embarked on. This is the second month of 13 months that will actually be in this series. And this series, this course, if you will, is called Islands of Sanity in a Mad World. And for those of you who have not heard the song Mad World by Tears for Fears from way back decades ago. One of the most brilliant rock songs ever. Absolutely brilliant. And somehow, for me, a perfect fit for these times we're in, articulating the mad world we're in. So, I will be including, or I am already including, versions of the song Mad World. There are many covers of that song,
Hmm.
and I'm including them in the intro and outro for many of the course videos. So hopefully you're diving into some of the course materials for this series. And hopefully you've already heard at least one version of Mad World.
Who is that singer, by the way?
Uh, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name,
Oh,
but I
okay.
will be happy to get it to you. Be super
Hmm.
easy to do so.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I just don't remember.
Okay.
Um, when last we found our heroes, we were, we were just a half an hour ago-ish. We were finishing up the first of the 1 hour class sessions that we have on these Saturdays. That one we are dedicating to the sharing about the book, the current book club choice that goes in parallel with this class, in which we are coming together to speak about the larger context provided by um, Islands of Sanity in a Mad World, the curriculum of living resilience, basically. So, welcome here. Um, my recounting of the last hour that we just came out of was one of the most satisfying and confirming and validating experiences I've had in presenting this work that I've had in the 10 years that I've been doing it.
Hmm.
And I really put together I have to say I just went a little nuts by creating a year-long course for people to participate in the time of nanosecond attention spans. And with the fire hose to the face of ever-present content, what was I thinking? What I'm thinking is that this is exactly the kind of space holding training. This is exactly the kind of space in which we can each declare what matters most to us and curate a set of personal practices to expand our capacity to be present in the face of ever growing stressors. It takes time and it takes inner work to do this. And that's why I made it 13 freaking months long.
Yeah.
And last hour, it's through a number of people's sharing from our different perspectives and different experiences, there was a unanimous calling out of what we need is a place where we can be real with each other. We
Yeah.
can hold space for one another. We can take the risk that we just can't usually take in out in the regular world to fully express, to fully crack open our heart and express what's really there, if it's grief or if it's rage or if it's fear or if it's joy. It is so not acceptable in most business as usual settings for us to fully express or to fully reach out and offer space holding to people that may or may not be on the same political side of the spectrum as we are. They may or may not agree with everything that's, so important on the level of politics or culture and so on in these times. We can truly be of service to one another, to hold space for one another, as was so generously offered last hour. So, welcome here to the Islands of Sanity in a mad world side of the Saturday. I want to just update you all. I don't know how many of you might have had the chance to listen to what I would call the core video or the core curriculum for this week, for this actually 2 week stretch. And that was about what got us into this predicament. And the core message was, and still is, that what got us into this global, human-caused, self-terminating predicament is that we've disconnected. We've disconnected from deeper self, disconnected from each other, from earth, and from soul. That's our way around here of summing it up in that way. And I'm not trying to advertise this like this is the truth and boy, you better memorize it just like I said it. No, this is just one guy's and one organization's way of so that we share language, so we can talk about it. Because without a shared language, we're just bumbling around in the fire hose to the face 24/7 barrage of bullshit, really.
Mhm. Mm.
So it's meant to be that. It's not meant to be a dogma, some new way that you must toe the line and believe that, you must have certain amount of collapse acceptance belief. You don't here.
Mm.
It's a very rough uh, threshold to cross. To go from collapse awareness to collapse acceptance takes something. It takes some inner work.
Yeah.
That's what this work is. So, could I just see hands if you've seen the video that I'm talking about that I put out about, I want to say 4 days ago?
Mm.
Okay, so one. Okay, please, if you would, go to the course materials area of the Living Resilience community space. And it's actually going to be in the little courses menu. And it's the one called Islands of Sanity in a Mad World. And when you click on that, you're going to go down the menu of the whole first session, the first 2 Saturdays of September. All the materials for those first 2 sessions are there.
Mm.
You might want to check out anything you haven't checked out yet. There's nothing too terribly long. And in that most recent bottommost section, which is about month two, M2,
Mm.
and you'll see this thing about what got us into this predicament. I think it's the first piece of course material. Pretty sure it is. And so please watch it at your earliest convenience after today or after this session. I've also posted something, and really my apologies. Yes, I have a really firm commitment to minimizing content in this course. We all have too much content all the time. I really, really get that. It's very much my experience as well. So I'm trying to minimize it. And this time I went too far only by really the accident of my capacity and my schedule, my things that happened had me post much later. It was not fair of me to post that disconnection piece that I was just talking about
Hmm.
only a couple of days ago, a few days ago. And so it is very much my intention to give you far more than that, at least a week, and if not more like 10 days to be able to get the core pieces under your belt. There's another piece that I posted just this morning, and it is part of what will show up as a monthly segment here in the course material for each month. There will be at least one what we are up against segment. This is the closest thing that you're going to see to doom scrolling in our materials.
Hmm.
I'm really just
Hmm.
sick to death of the constant doom scrolling of either human caused collapse of Earth systems or the human caused collapse of human systems.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, the election process going on in the USA. I would call that a vivid example of the collapse of human systems.
Yeah.
What is going to show up in what we are up against, this segment that will show up each month, is something that gets above a certain threshold of, okay, this is strong enough, important enough to make mention of. And I'm not only doing those relatively shorter video pieces for that, but I'm also clipping it down to 30-second mini pieces
Hmm.
when I can to post on social media so that people who are interested in this kind of topic can get their 30-second soundbite and see if they would like to participate. I'd like to play that 30-second um, excerpt from this month's What We Are Up Against segment. And this
Yeah.
is
Okay.
from, I don't know, is everybody familiar with a guy named Daniel Schmachtenberger?
Heard the name.
Okay. So I'm seeing some vivid yeses and some sort of. That's fine. I consider him to be one of the foremost thinkers of our time and perhaps of all time. He's just this
Mhm.
remarkable polymath who truly can use the word sense making, and I experience that in when he speaks. He's not God. He doesn't call himself a guru. He has extraordinarily little self-importance for
Hmm.
his exquisite ability to hold dozens of threads and weave them together in a relatively short period of time into something that can be useful for others. He also self-discloses in a way that again reduces the self-importance quotient and brings him into a humanness that I've certainly never seen an intellect on his level with that ability to self-disclose. It's exquisite. Now, this is from a um, a conference in Sweden in the fall of 2023, in which, excuse me, Daniel Schmachtenberger was one of a number of experts that was invited to speak. And this is from his what could be called a keynote conversation that he had with the person who was the host of the conference. And that keynote was, I think, 20 minutes long. This is a 30-second quote
Huh.
clip from that keynote conversation. And why I included it, why I had that, the majority of his keynote, I included in this What We Are Up Against uh, clip or segment for this month. So when you see it in the course material, it's going to be a bit longer. You'll get the context,
Hmm.
and you'll get even more of why I included this. Again, I don't want to just put a bunch of doom scrolling in your lap.
Right.
This is distinct. I have never heard Daniel Schmachtenberger speak with this level of gravitas, this level of scale, and the contrast in scale between what it actually will take for us to muster the agency, the human will to actually be able to shift anything in the face of what we're up against and what we're showing up with now.
Yeah.
The difference between those two is literally planet rumbling. So this is me, and I don't mean to jam you with hyperbole or my thoughts about it, my reaction to it. Please have your own. But I want to let you know that I'm not taking it lightly, that I am offering you this segment each month. And it's my promise to you that I will do my best to have it be at least at this scale of impact. So, if you'll just bear with me for a moment, I will get it ready to share my screen for the 30-second. And I will play the clip twice because it really is only 30 seconds long.
Okay.
I don't want people to think about how to make their own life regenerative because it doesn't matter. I don't want people to think about how to make Sweden regenerative. I want people to think about what it would take to turn the entire arc of humanity, factoring what is currently driving it, and that everything else that you could do doesn't matter at all because the end of the possibility space of all meaningful human activities is imminent if we don't do that. That's what I'm reflecting on. I don't want people to think about how to make their own life regenerative because it doesn't matter. I don't want people to think about how to make Sweden regenerative. I want people to think about what it would take to turn the entire arc of humanity, factoring what is currently driving it, and that everything else that you could do doesn't matter at all because the end of the possibility space of all meaningful human activities is imminent if we don't do that. That's what I'm reflecting on.
Whoa.
Yeah. Sincho.
Yeah, at the end of this conference, somebody asks from the audience, he asked for questions. Somebody asks in the audience, what can I do? He said, turn off everything on your phone that is social media. Turn off everything you've been looking at, and if you can, spend the rest of your life just, putting away all your old activities and concentrating your vital life on helping with this problem. So that's what he ends up saying when somebody literally says, "What can I do?"
Hmm.
But it's interesting to me that the first thing he says in answer to that question is, "Turn off the fucking social media," because that's not going to help us. That's the thing that's hurting us.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So thank you, Sencho. That is true. I recall that as well. And what I'd like to ask is that if we could just settle in together to do your best to just recall watching those two rounds of the 30-second clip. And could you please share some of the nuggets that you get that you remember hearing when he was talking? What are some of the things that you derived from what, or that you just flat out heard from what he shared? Yeah, Richard.
Well, to me, it reminds me of a Zen koan. It's like, well, we need humanity to wake up and pay attention to this crisis, and we all need to somehow, contribute to transcending this situation. But the koan part of it is that's not happening. I mean, how there is no waking up for all of humanity apparently because not enough people are even interested, let alone committed to it. So
Right.
where does that leave us? I mean, that's what I'm left with is like, yeah, sure, that's true. But I mean, we're stuck in this horrible koan-like situation where we desperately need to awaken, and yet most people aren't interested in awakening. It's like, what the fuck? I mean, how do we deal with that?
Mm, mhm,
That's what I take from it.
Yeah,
mm.
thank you. Thank you, Sencho.
So let's see. So he said, don't forward yourself. Don't try to plan out what, you know, whatever plans you've already had. Give all that up. The only thing that matters is taking care of this problem from somewhere else and just looking at that. That nothing else that we're going to do is going to have any effect on it at all. So give it up.
I got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sumitra, you got anything?
Well, I'm assuming I have to assume what the problem is, and that is of the problem of humanity is its own disconnection from itself and to the planet. I'm guessing that's what he's talking about.
Hmm.
Um, and so I mean, I feel very strongly aligned with that, and I've been trying to figure out how to do that all my life, I guess.
Hmm.
And yes, and I have burnt myself out trying to create community, trying to serve community, trying to build these connection places, connection spaces. And I kind of literally burned myself out, my health around that. And at the same time, having to, not now, but having to try to support myself in the system that wants to kill our soul. So, I mean, for me, it's been a really difficult life because of that, because um, it's hard for me to go against my soul, and yet it's hard to find soul around me,
Yes.
right? So, it's been like kind of walking in a desert and finding an occasional oasis
Yeah.
where there's a few animals drinking, but it's been very difficult, and I would love to know what I can do at this point in my life to help.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do that with you. I can be human with you. I can be my most human and say I'm exceedingly lonely. not because I've never really had that connection, because I've not seen that. I've not had a lot of experiences of true connection like we're having right now. And that's what has always meant something to me. And that's what's always been real to me. And I've grown up in an artificial world.
Mhm.
And so like, what do I do with myself in this world?
Yeah.
I can try to keep creating these spaces, and lately it's been disastrous, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna keep trying because that's what I'm here for. But
Yeah.
you know, I'm assuming that's what he's talking about is our connection to ourselves, our connection to each other, and then, my God, our connection to the planet. And ironically, when I go out in the woods and I'm romping around out there, I feel more connected to myself than ever. So, like, I think it actually starts maybe with nature as far as the healing process goes.
Yes.
For me, anyway, it starts with nature. I'm connected to myself. I can be more connected to others, but that's just me. I
Beautiful.
don't know what Skelly's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, it actually isn't clear for me either. If I look back to what Sencho is pointing at, his one of his final quotes, his responding to the question, what can we
Mhm.
do? It's still extraordinarily vague. So I'm with you. And let me just see if Robert has anything to add to our list. Now, Robert,
Yeah.
do you have anything to reflect off of, or um,
Well, yeah, I was trying to, I'm considering what he was saying. It sounded, well, he didn't talk about doing anything actually. He talked about
mhm,
becoming aware of what's driving the system. And on the part that we saw, as far as I could tell. And but it seems like that's implied that one might have a part in doing something, which then kind of reverses field from where uh, I've come to, which is more like acceptance and not bargaining or hoping for a turnaround.
mhm,
So
mhm.
that was a little confusing about uh, the quote's utility
Yes.
because where I feel like I'll end up in a cell with Roger Hadlam, whatever his name is, Hallam, yeah,
Helen. Mhm.
England. So I don't know that if you actually think what it's going to take,
Yeah.
not necessarily, but you could contribute to that. But is that kind of bailing water, in the ocean in a boat that's sinking?
Yes.
So that was my reaction. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Kind of
I agree with that, by the way. Okay.
kind of picking up on a common thread here. And Sancho, I see your hand. Let me just throw in my 2 cents on kind of aligning with what y'all have been sharing. I similarly about the only thing that Daniel Schmachtenberger has come up short on in the various things that I've been listening to him say for years now is, so what do we do about this in terms of real live daily living, our relationships with each other, with Earth, like how, he started in this 30-second clip, he says, I don't want you to create a regenerative Sweden. I want you to look at the scale of how do we change the arc of humanity. And I'm sorry, but that level of agency is not
Hmm.
available to anyone I know, including
Yeah.
me.
Hmm.
Right.
There is no changing the arc of humanity. Oh, I think I'm going to change the arc of humanity and then I'm going to go walk my dog. It ain't going to happen. So I love that each of us in our own way has been saying, it's disturbingly vague what he's saying. And okay, maybe I give up social media, but then what do I put my attention on?
You froze up.
And so I would like us to all just acknowledge, just name, you already have, and now I am naming, this is where we're sitting. We're sitting in a shared reality of the scale of engagement that he's talking about is fantasy.
Mhm.
It's
No,
it is
no,
literally fantastical.
no.
Okay,
Well,
just let me finish and then you can argue whatever you want to argue. So and it's very out of character in my experience of Daniel Schmachtenberger for him to put out something at that big a gap between the average person's reality and what he's inviting us to engage with. And what I'm hearing in just the in each of y'all sharing and now what I'm saying is, so what is the scale at which I can engage and I can actually shift something in a meaningful way and on my scale of meaningful? And so I've heard the word soul, I hear the word relationships, I know I use the word presence quite a bit, and this seems to be more the neighborhood that I am orienting myself toward. And now I'm going to shift it over to Sencho, who's going to set me straight.
Okay. So, what Robert just wrote, to us is if everyone did what he said, it would be different. And that, Robert, is where I'm coming from. So, Daniel Schmachtenberger did not say, here's what you should do, because if you follow his instruction, and take in all the information that you can. That's what he's been doing his whole life. And that's why he can do or start to do, or what he's aiming to do. And I've heard him say this is look outside the box of business as usual. This is where we have to go. We cannot describe that because, yes, it is what you say, Dean. It is theoretical. It is fantasy. It is not what we've been thinking. And that's exactly where the answers lie. Because it's not the answer, if there is an answer, and if anything is repaired, it is not going to be one thing. It's going to be whatever is outside the box, that connects with what's going on and that we can access. So that's why he's not directing people, because he can't specifically say, this is what you've been thinking, because he wants everyone to think outside of the box.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Sumitra, I see your hand, and if I may just respond for a second to you, Sensho, thank you very much for what you're saying. And it seems like I would want to combine that level of out of the boxness that you've just been reminding us of with the folks who work out of the glorious book of Hospicing Modernity. And I'm going to blow this quote because I don't remember it exactly, but it's along the lines of trusting the unseeable, the unseen, to reveal that which is most needed.
Bingo.
So there's a magic in there. That's just a word I'm making up and throwing in, not something that Hospicing Modernity calls it or Daniel Schmachtenberger calls it. And it's a very real, and I say the word, it is magical, and I'm saying it with due reverence. This is
Mm.
part of the sacred. I think we're calling on the sacred when we're calling on the unseen here in that context that I'm understanding that from hospicing modernity. So I would like to call that an overlap. that it is not a binary where you're disagreeing and arguing with me and I'm over here on this point of
Not at
view.
all.
To me, it's a calling to what I'm hearing you say, and you
Mhm.
saying that Daniel's saying,
Hmm.
and hospicing modernity is saying, is it has to occur outside of the business as usual structures that have gotten us
Mhm.
into this place.
Mhm.
And that occurs in the unseen.
Mhm.
Is that
Hmm.
fair to say?
Fair,
Okay,
ultimately fair, 100%.
great. Thank you. Thanks for your patience, Sumitra.
Oh, had two concurrent thoughts. So one is instead of looking outside the box, looking in the box and looking into those places that we are, terrified to look, into the shadow, into our emotional body, and into the instinctual body, which has been bred out of us through this culture.
Mhm.
We've literally abandoned our instinctual body, our intuition, for the most part, as a human culture, our emotional truths, which kind of lead us into the soul realms. But also, I think, Michael Meade again is on to something when he talks about so many things. Which one do I want to talk about? That it's in these times that we have to reach really, 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 really deep. And usually it's a dark night of the soul, a profound trauma, or something like that, that we have no choice but to go down into the descent. And I think that is definitely on its way. It's underway. And it's in that place of stumbling, confusion, blindness, terror, helplessness, hopelessness, that, and in the cracks, his bio talks about, I can't ever say his last name, remember it, but he talks about watching the cracks and what grows out of the cracks. And so, and having that be our teacher, I don't know if it's anything we're really going to be able to do except kind of fall apart with the culture, with the society, with the system, is allow ourselves to fall apart so that the recreation can, and the intelligence of the meta mind, the meta universe or whatever comes through us. And that's what Michael Meade talks about. It comes through us. It's not us. It's not coming from us. It's not something we make up or some plan that we're going to come up with in a boardroom or a think tank. It's actually going to come through us and through our surrender to a large degree, I think.
Hmm.
But that's very, kind of woo woo, but I actually think it's true. Um yeah, so I'll stop there, I guess. But our instincts, and what my therapist like said this week is like, go out into the forest. I live in the Pacific Northwest, so there's a grand forest here. And just follow your instincts. If you see a stick pointing a certain way, what would it be like if you followed that direction? Or if there's a beam of light, what if you followed that beam of light and let your animal body kind of like lead and guide you? And those are the kind of things that I'm talking about, that I'm thinking about, that keeps humanity alive. That's the rescuing of humanity, is the reclaiming of our actual um inheritance, our actual what we're made of, that has been pounded the fuck out of us in the past 500 years, at
Mhm.
least. So I'll stop there. I will stop.
It seems like in a particular way, Sumitra, you were just describing part of what I believe they're talking about when they use the word unseen, the unseen, those ancestral roots, those soul roots, these dimensions that occur in a non-linear, non-visible, non-business as usual world. It occurs, these dimensions that you're describing occur inside of us in an unseen dimension. And so that's what I hear you calling out. Is that okay to say?
I mean, that's literally all I got
Yeah,
at this point,
yeah,
because all the other things that I have tried to concoct or build, like they all fell apart. They all fell apart because I think this is a time of things rather falling apart. I don't know, like I don't know if the ego really has that much reign anymore. And we're so used to creating and driving and everything by the ego. And I don't know if that's really going to be much help right now. I mean, we need it to contain our experience. But other than that, I think we're in a time of soul,
yeah.
which is very chaotic,
Mhm.
very chaotic.
Got it. Thank you. And Sencho, thanks for your patience. You got
Okay.
something?
No, I was in rapt attention of what Sumi was saying. I just want to first attempt to validate what you were saying, Sumitra, because um, if we leave off if we let go, if we can, whenever we can, of our doubt about whether we're seeing what you just said and it's accurate and it makes sense making in the way that Schmachtenberger makes all the time. Although he comes from a technical space as well. So he can talk history and, and put together things about, put it all together. I want to encourage the yeah, of this is not humanity is not going to survive by trying to use IQ. And by that, I mean that, the assertion that if your so-called IQ is high enough, you're intelligent. And if it's lower, you're not intelligent. That makes no sense at all, because some of the most brilliant things that I have ever conceived of and watched somebody like play with or come up with is from a dirt level imagination, not thinking, not being intelligent, not being bright, not showing off, not being egotistical, but this is how you make a privy so that you don't soil the thing that you're standing on at the privy. It's like that. I mean, I know somebody who did that in India. And it's the brilliant thing that this guy did was just put a plank across this is a community privy, across the privy, so you could only stand. It was tilted in such a way you could only stand in one direction in one way, so that not, and the problem before that was everybody was standing in different ways and soiling what you were standing on. Now, you know, I may be, really off base here, but I don't think so. That it's that kind of using our abilities to solve problems that no one else would think of. How many centuries have we had privies where they're just disgusting? But I'm using that as an example to show that IQ has nothing to do with it, and it's all business as usual. All of that, how we judge, all of the judgment of how we should be using our brains, and we should be using technology, and we should be doing business and everything else. That all has happened, and it's done us in. And so we have to do as you say, And we have to understand that I'm going to have a couple friends who are going to tell me that's not ridiculous. I'm not going to be in more danger than I already am if I'm thinking in this way. Do you know what I mean, Sumi? That I'm there with you. We're all trying to be able to hold that space that you described so beautifully, and and I've gotten less and less afraid of that space because I've been studying that space for a lot of years. And so have indigenous people, and so have Buddhist masters and Hindu masters, and every religion except maybe Catholicism. I don't know. Maybe the ultimate Catholic had that in mind. But anything that's become business as usual has gone off the track. And so in order to be able to support humanity, we have to be able to go there. And the there is what you're afraid of, Sumitra, and what I've been afraid of, what everybody's afraid of. It's in Zen, it's called stepping off the 10-foot pole. You don't know what's going to happen. You think you're going to fall, or, letting go of the branch that's hanging over the chasm. It's exactly what you say. And I believe that's exactly what Schmachtenberger is saying. Thank you for bearing with my excitement, but I love meeting people who can go there with me.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yep.
Robert, I'm curious how you're doing.
Oh, yes, I'm here.
We can
Yeah,
only see,
well,
we can only see the top of your head.
yeah, that's okay. That's good. That's the best part. I've got some hair there. Um, yeah. Well, I'm out here on my deck by the river, so I'm realizing that I don't get out here the way that I should, that I could and would be healthier for me, and kind of connecting in some way to what's been said about going into the forest and, being with nature and having some, the natural instincts or intuition be present. Because we're in these, I guess I've come to think is we're in these artificial, unnatural environments all the time, and, mankind was, it never had these houses and square rooms and, and we wouldn't even know how to live outside. I was thinking recently that if you put a guy in the woods, he'd die, and, we had these communities somehow of 100, 120 people, but that we've, even our feet are not accustomed to walking in the woods. We'd say, where's my hiking boots? And that we no longer can live in the natural world. We become so dependent on the artificial one. But I resonated, I guess, with what Sumitra was saying about the time of soul and and that there's another dimension that things come through a place of prayer, maybe, or meditation, whatever you want to say, that I've experienced more in the past, but I haven't dedicated the time to accessing those states of recent years. And it occurs to me, geez, why not? Those were the most precious times for me. So that's kind of what's going on with me.
All right, thanks so much. Yeah. Richard, you doing okay?
Yeah, relatively speaking, I guess. I mean, this is, it's such difficult stuff. I mean, kind of what I take from what Daniel Schmachtenberger was saying is, yeah, that all the in the box thinking and all the business as usual stuff is pretty useless at this point. And I don't know. I mean, in a way, I feel like we're in the middle of a process, and the process is going to unfold whether we like it or not. And the process is largely due to the fact that, millions and millions and even now billions of people around the world are living way beyond our means in a way. And, we're all trying to live this so-called modern consumer lifestyle where we have all this stuff available to us and constant stream of available entertainments and foods and all this stuff. And, all around the world, people are doing this. And then, of course, you got the fossil fuel use that goes along with it and all the cars and all the pollution and industry, all those things. And it's been expanding all over the world at a rapid pace. So it's like, I think we've set events in motion that we cannot possibly stop. So, I mean, that kind of gets back to, well, the collapse acceptance thing. So it's all happening. I mean, we're in the middle of it. It's sort of inevitable at this point. We've created these conditions. So the whatever karmic means, it's happening. It seems to me, and very difficult to accept. Because it's going to mean a lot of suffering, basically. I mean, there's going to be a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of animals going extinct. I mean, it's really an incredible spectacle. Horrible spectacle. And I don't know. I mean, I don't actually think there's a way out. I think that we can just find ways to cope with it ourselves and do what we can in our personal lives, and that might have an effect and, have a affect the person next to us, and that person affects somebody else, and they affect somebody else. That's all true, but I don't think it's going to change the overall trajectory of what's going on. And then you got the soul level where the unexpected can happen. Who knows what spirit has planned or what the soul has planned for us? We don't even know. So that's hopeful in a way, but it's also like we can't pin hope on it because we don't know what's going to happen. We're just kind of floating in this karmic unwinding or whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I feel about it and think about it. And it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It is.
Richard, thank you. You actually just created a segue to us checking out. And
Hmm.
while I'm going to assert that, that was a beautiful checkout you just did, kind of
Yeah.
summarizing and what you're left with, I don't mean to say that you can't share anymore, but I would just like to ask each of us to do
Yeah.
our own relatively short, a minute or two at the most, checkout of what are you landing with after this time together, after we've covered some extraordinary territory here. And so I would just appreciate hearing from each of us how we're doing, what we're landing with. Yeah. So is there anyone who would like to be next?
I'll just say one thing real quick. I mean, I just talked a lot. The only thing I want to add is I I'm kind of left with this deep feeling of sadness, actually. It's not terrible. I mean, I don't feel depressed. It's just this sadness for what humanity has done. I mean, what we've created in this tidal wave of collapse that's building, and it's kind of upon us, and it's sad. It's just sad.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say about it.
Mhm.
What a very, very human thing to be feeling right now. Thank you, Richard.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Sencho?
Yes, to agree with you about the sadness. Just a sort of side note is that Daniel Schmachtenberger cries every day.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
just so that you know that. And all of the enlightened teachers that I've come into contact with all understand that there is an existential sadness that they have to deal with, and that they're not trying to teach out of their teaching,
Right.
because it's going to be there. And that's a way in.
Yeah.
The acceptance of that itself is a way in. So, I mean, this conversation has led me to joy that I'm with people who I feel comfortable with, that I can express myself with, and I'm understanding what I can understand right now from all of you, and trying to express and hopefully expressing some amount of good validation for what you're feeling. And I came into tears a couple times, and
Yeah.
this is a way in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I so tremendously value this space, and gosh, these last couple hours with you, thank you so much. I just want to say, just a thought is that in large we were forced into this. So we did comply, but there's not a lot of room for defiance of this system. And if you choose to walk the road less traveled, it's a tremendous hardship. It really is. I mean, there's the rewards, but it's a lot of hardship too.
Yeah.
Um, I had another so-called brilliant thought, but I can't remember it now. But anyway, just thank you so much, just for the humanity in this room. And gosh, like, thank you. It's just so beautiful and so rare. It's such like a precious jewel. Oh, and I was gonna say, yeah, like maybe it's just time to really um make friends with our suffering, or learn
Hmm.
how to deal with our suffering, as a lot of the Buddhists,
Hmm.
talk, because
Yeah.
we're in this intense, and we don't even know how long this initiation is going to last. But it is, we're in like Hades right now. And how do
Hmm.
we attend to our own suffering, really? How do we view that? And how do we live with it, really, is the question. But anyway, thank you so much. Big, big, big gratitude.
It was great.
Yeah, I'll just say that this hour here, it's got me reacquainted with my backyard, which I don't. I have a deck, a beautiful river, and all these things I'm showing you here, and I never even look at it. Like, see that? I don't know if you can see a red tree in the background. I never noticed it before, and
Wow.
all this beauty. And why am I in the house reading doom scrolling when I could be out here, connecting with nature, reading something or journaling? And so so I appreciate this couple hours here that we've devoted to being saner and more soulful.
Hmm. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a great, again, a great segue. I took a big risk in having the first month's material, course material, be about crafting or just looking at our own personal story, if you will. Like, what is the
Hmm.
story I'm living in my life? For some of us, that's an easy conversation to look at and explore and compare to some of the big stories that are most well known in our culture. And for other people, it's like, I don't get it. Why is he asking us to do this? This doesn't do anything for me. And I would ask that you might want to relook at that material, especially if you didn't quite get it in September, is just take a look, especially the stuff about film. I'm not at all saying we should all create our own business as usual flavored, hero's journey. In fact, I think he's saying, the expert that I quote or that I include is saying that that's not the point anymore.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't fit that anymore. And maybe we've got a whole different realm to explore to find our superpowers or the archetypal influences that we can draw from a lineage or from a piece of the land, or there are whole different dimensions that we've explored briefly today that could kind of inform a different story of how I'm going to engage with life.
Hmm.
What is the story I'm going to lean into and live from? And it may have nothing in common with the everyday business as usual expression of the hero's journey and the superhero,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. No.
Right. Hmm.
What is it to live in how did Daniel Schmachterberger put it? He said, the end of the possibility space for humanity is imminent.
Hmm.
I would call that an archetypal activating moment where it would behoove us to be doing a lot of journaling on our back deck, especially if we have a view like that. My God. And and to do this depth work that Sumitra consistently brings to us in every
Hmm.
share of, like, what if we were to explore this usually unseen, unspoken realm of soul to find the elements that we're going to put together to weave together our story, our expression
Hmm.
in this one precious life that we are choosing to live. That's what that whole story thing was about. And I say it's going to take us months, if not the entire year, for some of us to put that together, because this is unknown territory, even as familiar as many of us are.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much. I just could not ask for more vibrantly alive, engaged people to be sitting in circle with, to be having these conversations. This is what is the door that swings us open into the inner work of collapse.
Mhm.
I'm just so thankful. And I promise some exquisite elements coming up in preparation for 2 weeks from now. I promise them much earlier than these ones came. And just bless your hearts. Bless your hearts. And let's please reach out to connect with each other as much as you can, as much as you want to. And please share some of your resources and inspirations in the chat space that we have to share in private way there in the course section. And just bless your hearts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, all of you. Bless you too. Hmm. Bye.
Sumitra, see
Bye,
you tomorrow.
everybody.
Bye.
Okay.